Hey, so this note is specifically for ID and DD support coordination on how to do a DAP note, which is the format, stands for data, assessment, and plan that you would use for services that are not face-to-face. So these are things like collateral contacts, which are contacts with other people that are relating to the person or providing services to the person. So that could be a parent or guardian, a group home provider, a probation officer, a school staff, if they're a person who is in school, a day program staff or support person. So really like any of the services that you're providing for support coordination. So linking, monitoring, things like that, coordinating services that are not face-to-face with the individual and even not telehealth face-to-face. So some of our services are provided via telehealth, but this is not a telehealth face-to-face. This is just a collateral contact. This is when you would do the note format for this person. So I'm going to select the button that says Profile of Client. And I am using my test client, Autumn, because it is autumn right now. Okay, but just please know that there's no health information for this person that is going to be displayed. I have made up all of the date of birth and all of the information here for practice purposes. I'm going to click on the tab that says Plan of Care. And I am going to click on the little dot that says Plan Services. Because if I'm planning to do my note, I'm going to click on Plan. That's how I remember that. Cost Center means program. What program folder of notes am I putting this service under? And I'm going to select DD Support Coordination. And then I'm going to select Filter. So here is a list of services that we can provide to individuals in the ID DD program. Now, just please keep in mind, if you have gotten to this list of services from another method, so let's say you're using the dashboard method, or you're kind of going down the front of the plan and choosing the service plans button to get to this list. There are more than one ways. There's more than one way to get to this list, and that is totally fine. Okay, so if someone else has showed you different methods to get to the progress note screen, however you get there is fine. We just want you to get there. All right, so I'm going to select ID support coordination by clicking once, highlighted orange. I'm going to select the add recorded service button. And this is the screen that is the bread and butter of charting. Okay, so it is, what service did I provide? And it's support coordination, because that's what I clicked on. It has my person's name at the top so that I know exactly whose chart I'm putting this note under. And I am putting it under the support coordination program. Now it wants to know what date and time I provided this service. So not when I'm entering my note, but when did I coordinate this day program for them? Or when did I make this phone call? Or when did I do the service? So I'm going to click on this box and you're going to adjust the date and time. So let's say if I did it this morning, today's October 6th, 2021, when I'm recording this video. So I'm going to say maybe I made this phone call at 9 a.m. And I'm going to click this end date box. And it shoots for about 15 minutes, but if it was longer or shorter amount of time, I can either change the number of minutes in this minutes box by highlighting, using my number key. Let's say it was 25 minutes, okay? And then if I click back over here, it'll change the end time. The same thing will happen if you put the end time here, it will change the number of minutes. So they kind of talk to each other that way. Once you have the date and time in these boxes, your name will magically appear in this primary provider box. One of the biggest email questions I get is, why does my name not show up in this primary provider box? Please always start with the date and time at the top. So just start at the top of the screen and work your way down, and you should never run into any problem. If you do, that's when you just contact me, because it means that there's something on the setup side. But as long as your dates are in, your name should just magically put itself in there. Attending provider, we do not use for support coordination. Delivery method is how you provided this service. Client not present is a non-face-to-face contact. The client wasn't there. It wasn't face-to-face. Okay, so we use this for most all sort of collateral contacts, or because we want to differentiate between services we provide face-to-face and services that are not face-to-face. So I'm going to click client not present. Place of service is where was the service provided. Generally, for a client not present, we're going to select CSB program site. But let's say if you happen to be meeting with a staff member at a group home and the client is not there, but you're at the group home meeting with that staff member, you can put that place. Okay, so it's usually program site when the client is not present, but not always. Okay, so you have a lot of selections that you can choose depending on where you were. All right, now we get to the big juicy part of this, which is your progress note. Okay, so that's what happened. Here's the date and time and where I was and delivery method and all that kind of good stuff. But now this is where we're going to write up what happened. So to the far right of where it says progress notes, we're going to click the green plus. You hover your arrow over it. It should say add progress note. And there is a template drop down at the top. It says progress note template. So I'm going to click that. And for ID, your note template should show up in alphabetical order. And the ID notes are grouped together alphabetically because they start with ID. Sorry if you can hear that plane overhead. Beauty of working from home, right? So I'm going to do ID COVID-19 DAP note. The COVID-19 DAP note has this language at the top. If we ever magically get out of COVID-19, it will probably just say ID DAP there. So I'm going to click anywhere inside this note. That's going to lock this note in place. So what I see a lot of times is staff are like scrolling or playing with their mouse a little bit, and they'll see this jump around to different templates. Okay, so the trick to make that not happen is to click anywhere inside of this note. It says, yes, this is the template that I want, and it kind of just locks it in place. Now it's going to ask for support activities. Okay, and so those are the coordinate, link, advocate, monitor, basically like, well, what did I do? Okay, so one thing that I really like is there is a button right here that says treatment plan components. It is to the upper right-hand side of this text box here. I'm going to click on treatment plan components. Asking me for support activities. And so I'm actually going to go up here and click the little circle right next to where it says support activities. It cuts the text off a little bit because the name is longer than the amount of space that's there, but you can tell which one says support activities. And then you click view selection. And then there are all my options: advocate, monitor, link, assess, and coordinate. So what you can do is you can actually click next to where it says support activity in your note. And then I can click the support activity that I did. So if I was linking, to see how that turned orange when I clicked on link. If you want to select more than one, you can hold down Control on your keyboard and say, I was linking and coordinating today. See how that's highlighted both? And then I can select this copy component to note, and it is going to pull in link and coordinate. Okay, so whatever support activities you have selected, it's going to coordinate, it's going to pull those right in there. Okay, so now we get into what does DAP Note stand for? And it's going to show you right here, data, assessment, and plan. The data is what happened. What did you do? The data is just informational. So like, let's say if you were writing a newspaper article about this, it's the who, what, when, where kind of a thing. So if I am coordinating and linking, my data is going to be, and you can use SC for support coordination, support coordinator if you want to, called, let's see, provider to coordinate transportation. I'm not really good at talking and typing at the same time, but the data is what happened. Okay. So it's what you talked about, what went on during the call, or, you know, just the information. Your assessment is usually like assessing whether the services are continuing to be appropriate for the individual. You can also, like, let's say if you're talking to the individual on the phone, you can assess the mood or the status of the person. So it really is like you're assessing how things are going. Sometimes we need to add more services or the services need to change, and we can include that in assessment as well. One of the big things is just to not get hung up on what is data and what is assessment, because we're reading the progress notes as a whole. And when we get audited, they are read as a whole as well. Excuse me. So we really just want to make sure we have the what happened and then how things are going. Okay, so the assessment is that the, let's see, it's really hard to make up pretend progress notes. So let's say that maybe the assessment is Autumn is doing well in the day program and glucose provider is supportive of transportation needs. And my data would be a little bit longer if we talked about more stuff, but this is just kind of an example. The what happened, the whether things are going well and continue to be appropriate. If we need to change any services or supports based on what we're talking about. And then the plan is the next steps based on the data and information above. The biggest thing is that we want to make sure that if our support activity is linking and coordinating, then our data and assessment should include information about linking and coordinating. That way we want to make sure that this ties together and we've not arbitrarily pulled in support activities that we didn't really do, if that makes sense. It should just all jive together, okay? Now your plan should also jive together. So if everything is going well, my plan could be follow up next week to ensure transportation needs have been met. That is a follow-up plan that directly ties into the data and assessment that I have written above. Okay, so let's say your data is that things have gone haywire, right? Things aren't going well. Then my plan should not be, oh, continue to monitor services, right? My plan should be, oh, link them to a new provider or follow up with this or whatever the situation may be. Okay, so we just want to make sure that if your data and assessment are kind of like things aren't going well, then your plan also matches that. Okay, if things are going well, your plan can be kind of much more simple like this. Okay. So you just want to make sure that it all goes together, because a lot of times what happens is we get audited and they're like, this data doesn't have anything to do with support activity that's listed at the top. And then this plan is continue to monitor, but the data says they broke their leg, they ran away, and they're in the hospital. So we want to probably do more than just monitor, okay? So this is kind of an extreme example, but hopefully it gets to the heart of what I mean. There is a spell check right here. It's a check ABC. You can turn that on just by clicking on the check ABC. It will make the red squiggly lines like Word does, kind of all throughout here. And you can right click and see a list of corrections. This is highlighting because all my my word is capitalized, but you get the point. You know, you can make a spelling, and please check for spelling. It's one of those things that like tends to annoy auditors when things are kind of all misspelled and rushed. But it's one of those little things that you can check. Then I'm going to click the OK button. Okay, so I can review my note again. I can make sure everything looks good, make sure everything is spelled right, looks professional, because you know this could get subpoenaed or an auditor may read it. So just know that you know you want it to be professional in how you want it to look. I also have a do's and don'ts for DAP Notes handout. So if I haven't sent that to you, please reach out to me and I can also send it to you. It's just kind of a little FYI heads up, and it also goes into detail explaining what data assessment and plan are. You always want to final sign your notes after you have completed them. Okay, a lot of times we see, oh, they're saved, but they're not locked. And we want to stamp our signatures on these things. Just kind of like if you were writing a progress note on paper, you would want to make sure to sign it so that we know that it was completed and that you did it and that you had approved it, right? So we're going to go to this section that says supervisor final signature. Click the date box. You'll notice that all these other date boxes check themselves when I check the last one. That's why I really enjoy it. This is the one where it's when did I do my note? Okay, and I did my note today at 10:37 a.m. So I'm going to leave that there. Okay, and then I'm going to click OK. You'll see my progress note is saved right there. It asks for a service subtype. You'll see that on any support coordination or case management services, as well as some other services at the CSB. The only services that we need a service subtype for, or as if it was your annual meeting or quarterly review, okay? So if this was not an annual meeting and it was not a quarterly review, every time you come across this, you can hit not applicable. The alternative is if it is a quarterly or if it is an annual, click the one that makes the most sense. Click the one that goes with it. Otherwise, the rest of that list is for other programs. We're going to select NA. And you'll notice sometimes that I can see my save button is kind of hiding behind this bar right here. You do not want to exit or cancel this screen. You want to drag your note up until you see that save, because if I've gone to all this trouble, but I don't hit save at the bottom, it's not going to save my note. So I would never want that heartache to happen to you. So please make sure that you hit save. The save button will turn orange once you've clicked it. Okay. And then I always like to do a quick double check. That's why I like to do my notes from here to make sure my note kind of saved and went in there correctly. So then I can click on the little dot that says recorded service. Remember, if you're entering a service date, let's say if I did a progress note for yesterday, make sure you click that from date back. Otherwise, it's only going to show you stuff from today. Okay, so I'm going to say recorded services now. I can leave it under support coordination if I just want to see support coordination. And then I'm going to click the filter list button. I see the service that I provided right here. I can double click on it. I can see it. Oh, good. It's there. Everything is complete. You want to read your note, or if your supervisor or an auditor or anyone else wants to read your note, they can just double click and you can see the entire note here. And it is final signed, it is grayed out, it is wonderful. And that's exactly what you want. If you notice that you have final signed a note and there is a mistake in there someplace, all you have to do is reach out to me and I can help you fix it. Okay. So no worries. We always want to fix our mistakes. If you need any assistance, please feel free to ask and I would be more than happy to help you. So that's it for doing a DAP note. If you have any questions whatsoever, or if there's anything I can do to support you as you're learning this stuff, please reach out to me and I will be happy to help. Thank you so much and have a great day.